Merkel Media.
What does the goddamn line say, Tony?
Please. Then what? I'll be arrested, put in airport jail.
Look, you're going completely sideways, man.
It's a big club.
How dare you?
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
I'm Chris Hansen with
Mary's Tactheratrix.
Hi, I'm Spartacus.
Jackson, Sacramento, he, him. Steven Seagal.
Sex offender guy.
I'm Keith Morris.
This is Muammar Gaddafi.
I'm Rick James, bitch.
Sorting through the lies.
The hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site, if you can believe that.
We cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
And uncovering the centuries-long plan for world domination.
Learning about Cuba, having some food.
Let's talk about Chinese people.
Have you ever been in a Turkish prison?
I have sent 6 of my Libyan missiles to blow up the Sears hardware department.
Nothing could be more fun than jumping off a cliff with 2 German bisexuals.
Oh, you English are so superior, aren't you?
Thank you, comrade.
And now, macroaggressions.
That's what assholes call it.
With your host,
Buddy, I don't know who you are, but you're about to get chlamydia.
Charlie Robinson.
Hey, Whitey, where's your hat?
You want to drop the blame on Charlie and say it's all Charlie's fault.
He was a retard.
I get some goddamn diuretic.
Welcome to Macroaggressions. I'm your host, Charlie Robinson. If you're watching us on Rockfin, Odyssey, Band.video, Vigilante.tv, or you're listening wherever podcasts are served, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We know you got a lot of choices out there. If you want to connect with me, the website is theoctopusofglobalcontrol.com. You can find me on Twitter at Macroaggressions. And if you are looking to get out of the coldness and into someplace warm, at least for a week in February 6th through the 10th, 2023, Acapulco, Mexico. You can find me speaking with a bunch of other people at an Acapulco. Jeff Berwick will be there, Max Egan, Larkin Rose, David Icke, Ron Paul, Dan Dix, Del Bigtree, Mark Passio, Dr. Andrew Kaufman, Dr. Carrie Madej, B-Lady, Miriam Hanane, she'll be there. There's going to be a crypto stage. There's going to be a health and wellness component to it. There's a kids camp as well. So if you've got kids and you're looking to make a family vacation out of it, you can do that as well. The link is in the description, or if you know how to spell it, you can go to anarchapulco.com. And if you find something you like, use the promo code MACRO, save yourself some money. Thank you to our sponsor, our newest sponsor, Legal Shield. My goodness. I know I get the emails from the people signing up. It's a great service. I signed up immediately after Tony Arterburn told me about it. I wish I had known about it sooner. Better late than never. I'll tell you what it is. It's the collective buying power of all of us directed towards purchasing affordable legal representation in your area. You're going to get access to a high-powered attorney in your local area that can help you with a variety of things. And it costs about $1 a day. It's $30 a month. It's very reasonable. You can add on additional things. It's not just Legal Shield, but there's the ID Shield to that. If you own a small business, you can have a small business legal package. There's a gun ownership package as well. So there's a lot going on there. Take a look. I'll tell you, just the knocking out the documents, the legal documents themselves will pay itself off for the next 10 years. If you need a will, if you don't have a will, if you don't have a power of attorney, a medical power of attorney, a financial power of attorney, you got to have it. You just have to. I know it's not it's not something you want to spend money on. It certainly doesn't make you feel good when you're starting to draw up your will and think about things like that. But let's be honest. You got to be adults here. You got to have this documentation. You don't want to spend a couple $1,000 on it. At least I don't. So if you are interested, you might want to sign up for this. And of course, it'll pay itself off pretty easily. If you have an audit from the IRS for a W-2, they're hiring 87,000 more agents. You think they're going after the billionaires? No, of course not. They're going after you because you spent $604 on PayPal or Venmo and sent it to somebody, and now the IRS wants to audit you. I'll tell you what, this is what you need an attorney for as well. If the IRS is bothering you, send them to your attorney. You got a traffic ticket and you think it's kind of questionable, send it to your attorney. That's what they deal with. If you've got a funky letter in the mail from your homeowners association telling you that they're going to fine you for some nonsense, send that over to your attorney. People will push you around to the extent that you allow them to, which is the reason why the web domain that we chose was www.don'tgetpushedaround.com. I like the idea of us having a little bit of protection. The wealthy people have this. They have attorneys that look over all their legal contracts. They don't sign anything until their attorneys see it. You should do the same thing. And now you can. It's $1 a day. So I'll tell you what, just do this. That's all I ask is you go to the website, take a look for yourself, see if it's a fit, see if you want to do this and knock this out in the new year. I say do it. It's, add it to your list of things that you need to do, but you got to get this document done. You just have to do that and put them in your safe and then forget about it. Okay. But if in the future, you need this service, you're going to have it, and thank God for it. So go to www.don'tgetpushedaround.com and read up for yourself. And also thanks to Tim James and the crew over at Chemical Free Body. I feel so good sending people to him because I know he is a crazy person when it comes to his commitment to keeping chemicals out of the products that he makes. He's so insane that I couldn't even send him my t-shirt supplier because my t-shirt supplier didn't have organic cotton options. And he's like, I can't have it. Just can't do it. So look, Chemical Free Body is making fantastic products. And in this industry where half the stuff is garbage, look, you've got somebody that you can at least trust. I've been taking their products every single day since Tim and I connected 2.5 years ago. And I'm never going to stop. I've got 6 containers of Green 85 in my cabinet just waiting. That's going to get me through winter and spring. And look, I'm committed. I'm on that team. It makes me feel better. It doesn't cost all that much money. If you want to do the detox in a box, you can get a bunch of the gut detox, toxin detox, ultra enzymes, and probiotics. Add that to the Green 85 that you're taking every day and give it 90 days. And then you tell me, because I've gone through the program. I lost almost 10% of my body weight and I wasn't trying to and I didn't want to. It just kind of happened. It leaned me out. Now, of course, some results may vary. I'm not going to say that that's going to happen for everybody, but it happened for me. And all I did was take a couple capsules in the morning and drink this Green 85 in the morning, which I do anyway. So if you're interested, if 2023 is going to be the year that you finally take control of your health. Because if you're waiting for someone else to do it for you, I got bad news for you. It's never going to happen. This is going to have to be the thing that you do. You're going to have to decide to do this. But thank God it only takes like 5 minutes, okay? to take this stuff, add it to water, stir it up, drink it. It doesn't even taste bad. It looks bad. It looks like pond scum, but it doesn't taste bad. You'd be surprised. I don't like vegetables. I'll be honest with you. And I don't have a problem drinking this at all. So if you're in the market, if you're interested, if it's something that works for you, chemicalfreebody.com, promo code MACRO to save a little bit of money. Oh, by the way, they have free shipping in the United States. And if you didn't like it, they have a double your money back guarantee. So Tim will hook you up. He's not worried. I tell you who should be worried though. The maniacs that are running all of these goddamn simulations, okay, because we're on to them. They might have snuck in Event 201 on us, but now we have our eyes fully open. We're watching for this. And I'm sure that a lot of you have been hearing this lately, but there's a new one. Oh yes, there's a new simulation. There's a new Event 201. Should we call it Event 202? Event 666? I don't know. You tell me. They decided to call it Catastrophic Contagion. They're such shitheads. Catastrophic Contagion is a simulation that was run again the end of October 23rd, 2022, in Brussels, Belgium, by the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security, right on schedule. What a surprise, right? The same lunatics that you would expect to find there. Tom Inglesby, Anita Cicero. These are the same people that brought you Clade X, right? We just talked about that. I didn't want to talk about simulations again. We just did that. We just did a show called X Marks the Spot where we talked about the Clade X simulation from 2018. I thought, oh, okay, well, good. Well, I'll put that one out. And then, I don't know, maybe a year and a half from now, there'll be something else and I'll do a show on that. And that way I won't bore the audience by doing 2 simulation shows within the last month. I'm sorry, I can't help it. They did another one. What am I supposed to do? Pretend like it didn't happen? It did. And Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation finance death and destruction and definitely vaccines. So yeah, it's Johns Security, so that they could discuss a totally scenario, wink, wink. It's totally just fictional. We definitely aren't going to unleash this on the population at some point. This is a quote, a pandemic with a higher fatality rate than COVID-19. Wait till the next one comes around. That'll get their attention. Don't you remember Bill Gates saying that? Oh, boys, isn't it? It's funny. He's now role playing a new one. Is this the one that will get our attention because it disproportionately affects children? We know how much Bill Gates loves murdering children. Just ask India. He's not allowed there. If he sets foot in India, he will die in an Indian prison. Okay, if they don't drag him out in the town square and do it publicly. His Gavi Foundation gave 496,000 children polio paralysis. They said, get the fuck out of our country and don't ever come back, and take Gavi with you. Now, I know that they're working behind the scenes to try and get Gavi back into India. And the reason is because India is going to become the most populous country in the world, set to pass China relatively soon. And of course, we know how Bill Gates feels about population, right? He wants to get rid of them. So he's got to find a way to make sure that he's back in India with Gavi, his depopulation outfit. And we're going to get to this towards the end of this episode because Gavi makes another appearance and it's not good. So we're in this Catastrophic Contagion, nice name. They discuss a couple things. They talk about health. They talk about economic ramifications, and they talk about the social ramifications of what this will mean for people. So, it's one thing to bring in the doctors, and they of course do that with these simulations, but then you have to bring in other people because, as we saw with COVID, it doesn't just affect medical personnel. It's not just a medical issue. It becomes a social issue. Becomes a financial issue, it becomes an economic issue, it becomes a religious issue, so it affects everything, education too. So everybody is affected by this. It might be the main topic is virus related. It might be medical centric, but it doesn't mean that it's limited to that because it has this, well, what's in the name, contagion effect, right? Where it spreads all over the place. We saw that with COVID. I mean, everybody knows that when there's a deadly virus floating around with a 99.98% survivability rate and a median death age of 80 years old, you have to close down the local hardware store. I mean, duh. Everybody knows that. So it's not fair to say that it's just medical. It would be inaccurate to say that this is just impacting those in the medical field. So we're going to have to take a whole sort of 360 approach to this. And that's what the nice fellows over at Johns Hopkins, World Health Organization, and the Gates Foundation are doing because they care to the extent that they can murder you. So participants consisted of 10 current and former health ministers and senior health officials from the countries of Senegal, Rwanda, Nigeria, Angola. By the way, again, shout out to Angola. Macroaggressions, #1 podcast in the government section in Angola, according to Chartable. We're big in Angola. What can I say? Liberia, Singapore, India, Germany, and of course, the last participant was Mr. Sweater himself, Bill Gates. So It's a lot of Africa here, okay? Mostly Africa. We got Singapore. I don't know why Singapore wound up on this list, but Singapore, India, and Germany. So you've got Southeast Asia, South Asia, and Western Europe for a country. And then Bill Gates, who's everywhere. So this is a quote from it. It says, to successfully contain such an outbreak, decisive and bold action would need to be taken in the face of incomplete data, high scientific uncertainty, and potential political resistance. So allow me to translate what this actually means. If we're going to contain this outbreak, we're going to need to do things even when we don't know what's going on. Incomplete data. We're going to need to do things when there's high scientific uncertainty, meaning we're just going to have to try a bunch of things because we don't know if this vaccine will work or that vaccine will work or if this pill will work or whatever. So there's scientific uncertainty and also the potential for political resistance. There's going to be a bunch of countries that go, we're not interested in what you're proposing. We don't want this. But what they're suggesting is that in order to be successful, you have to take bold and decisive action regardless of what anyone else wants. That means I don't care if the country wants it or not, we're doing it. I don't care if we don't have all the facts yet, it doesn't matter. See, facts don't matter to them. You have to understand, they don't care about the facts. They don't care about the lethality of the disease. They don't care about how to cure it. They've got a much different agenda that is irrelevant of this. They have the answers. They have the solution already planned. This is the problem. They're going to create the reaction in order to give themselves the solution that they want. This is sort of elemental. So once you understand problem, reaction, solution, all of these scenarios, all of these simulations, they make a whole lot more sense because you know that you just invert it and work backwards. You go, well, what is the solution that they ultimately want? They want all kinds of control and they want a one world government. And they want the World Health Organization to be in charge of it. And they probably want a carbon tax, right? So you know that that's what they ultimately want. So you work backwards and you go, okay, well, how do they go to that? How do they get there? Well, they create a virus, right? A pandemic with a higher fatality rate than COVID that hits young people. Somewhere. And then they'll release it. And when I say they will release it, I mean they will release it. I don't mean this is going to level 5 facility in Wuhan. It's not going to start in some wet market and Shenzhen. It's not happening. Okay. They will release the virus that they created. This is how this works. I think we all kind of understand this now. Not the NPCs out there. They'll inject themselves with a million different things because they're told to. We, on the other hand, will go, well, wait a second. Give me the facts here. Well, they don't, what they're saying is, we're saying, give me the data. Give me the data and give me the science, right? Because I'm going to need this. And they're saying, it doesn't matter. Incomplete data, fine. High scientific uncertainty, who cares? You mean like COVID, where we had bad data and nobody in high scientific uncertainty? I mean, if you don't think there was high scientific uncertainty during COVID, then go stand on that dot that's 6 feet away from that other dot. And you tell me about scientific uncertainty. Go that direction down the grocery aisle 5 in your grocery store, but don't go the other direction because science, right? I never saw so much scientific uncertainty in my life. So this is what they're saying. They're saying, listen, we're gonna release this thing, and then we have to make bold decisions, which is decisions that are unpopular. That's how I interpret this. Bold decisions meaning we're doing it regardless of what you want, and it's going to be deeply unpopular, but it's bold and we have to do it. Even though the data is incomplete and there's high scientific uncertainty. Now, a reasonable person or an actual scientist would say, hang on, buddy. How do you know you're even doing the right thing if the data is incomplete and the science is uncertain? You're out here sprinting forward to try and solve a problem that you have no understanding of. You don't even have the data for it. The science behind it is uncertain, as you said, but you're already offering the solution and they're going to be bold steps. How would you ever know what the right solution is if it wasn't all horseshit? And of course, it's all horseshit. We know that. right? So it's just the pretext for unfurling the horse shit in a way that seems kind of connected. But I assure you, it's just the solution that they want. So anyway, this exercise was designed to take place in a post-COVID world. Now, during this simulation, they start debating again whether or not countries should close schools and impose travel restrictions for the new virus. So here we go again. So this is the problem I have. Among others. But one that's pretty obvious here is that COVID set this precedent of closings and travel restrictions. Because we did it with COVID, it was unprecedented then, right? We're like, holy shit, you're going to really do this? You're going to close schools? You're going to tell everyone to stay in their homes? Once you cross that bridge, you're there. You can never go back. You've decided that this is an option for society. So of course, in the new simulation, in a post-COVID world, they're going to debate school closings. They're going to debate travel restrictions, and they're going to impose them because it's not about keeping anybody safe. It's about keeping everybody scared. And when you can't travel and when you can't go to school, then by definition, you understand that there is a problem. Now, this problem may have 100% survivability rate, but it doesn't matter because they're making it seem like it's the end of the world. Now, of course, in this scenario, they said it has a higher fatality rate than COVID. Breaking your leg has a higher fatality rate than COVID. Okay, having surgery to get your tonsils removed has a higher fatality rate than COVID. Of course, it has a higher fatality rate. It fucking better. You're going to really scare people. What is it going to be? A 99.99% survivability? Holy shit. It's already the cold. So what are we doing? What are we talking about here? Anyway, so they're talking about travel restrictions. They're role playing this again. Of course, Bill Gates is in favor of it as he flies to Brussels in his private jet. Won't be any travel restrictions on that guy. But he definitely wants you to stay in your house and be afraid, because when you're afraid, you'll make short-term decisions, and he will offer short-term solutions. So the big question posed is, if future pandemics have a much higher lethality than COVID, right? Or if they affect predominantly children, the question is, would or should countries take different, stronger, or earlier measures to contain it? And what are those measures? That's the big question they ask in this catastrophic contagion simulation. So they say, look, we had COVID, and COVID was bad, and it killed millions and millions and millions of people. Didn't, but that's what, in their minds, everyone, killed everyone. But they said this new one is going to be even worse than COVID. And it's a double whammy, because it's not only is it worse than COVID, but it's worse for COVID on children. And of course, COVID, if you were under 20 years old, COVID, you had a 99.97% survivability rate. Okay. That's if you were 0 to 19 years old. Basically nothing. Okay. So dying, crashing your bike on the street, than dying from COVID if you're under 20 years old. Okay, so of course in this scenario, everything's inverted, right? So that now it's just the kids that get sick, right? So what they're asking is this: does it matter the next time around if it's not just old people that are dying who, not to be, crass or anything like that, but it's like circle of life, right? You're older and you're at, if you're doing it right, you're dying older. Right. So you're getting towards the end of, we can understand that, we can accept it, we can maybe even expect it to a certain extent. But when it's children and they're not supposed to be dying because they're not towards the end of their life cycle, will we respond differently? And if that's us, the audience here and me, and we're having a conversation, we're discussing this thing, I think that we could probably have a conversation that comes from a good place. It comes from a logical and reasonable and compassionate place, so that we don't worry about, so we don't have kids dying and things like that. Here's the problem though. When Bill Gates is talking about in his TED Talk, if we do a good job with our vaccination program, we can lower that number, meaning world population, by about 10 or 15%. So he's talking about depopulating 1 billion people from the planet. His company, Gavi, has given polio and paralysis caused from polio. And he's open about his desire to inject everybody. I have a problem with him discussing what the quote are to this, because I know he's a eugenicist. We know it. His father was one. He's part of a group of eugenicists. Expert. That's what he wants. He wants fewer people on the planet. He's fucking verbal about it. It's not me. I'm not talking about how I'm speculating that maybe Bill Gates is thinking this. I'm trying to read his mind. You don't have to read his mind. It's in their work. It's in their writings. It's the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation's goal. So excuse me if I get a little weirded out when he's talking about the solution for a virus that's coming through that affects children, because I think that the solution he wants and the solution we want are vastly different. So when they talk about things like, do we take stronger measures because we're dealing with kids? And let's say the answer is yes, because it's kids and we're really scared about that. Then the follow-up question is, what is that? What is that method? Well, I assure you that the solution they offer is not a good solution. But of course, they're working backwards. So we'll move on. So it says this: countries should establish a global network of professional public health leaders who can work together to improve epidemic preparedness and response, and strive for consensus on scientific issues in advance of the next major outbreak. Okay. I've kind of butchered that, but let me just sort of sum it up. They want a network of national health experts and responders. And they want this network is a group of people in every country in the world that is, they call them professional public health leaders. But these professional public health leaders are going to be controlled by them, which means they're not politicians. It means they're not elected officials. They're installed in all of these countries as health leaders that can work together to improve preparedness. So what they're saying is we want to install health leaders in all these countries before there's a pandemic so that we can, get them all up to speed on what the response is going to be. Wink, wink. Get them mobilized. This is part of what false flags do too. When you have these situations, it allows people to preposition assets. And this, to me, when I read that they want to have a global network of professional public health leaders, global network, really? Like a one world network? Is that what we're talking about? To me, I don't see this as we're going to put all these really good guys all over the place and tell them to sit there. And I see this as prepositioning assets so that when they unleash a new pandemic, their people are already in place. They don't have to start from scratch. They don't have to assemble a team. The team has been assembled. The team has been assembled by Bill fucking Gates. Okay. That's what they're talking about. And the World Health Organization, which is the United Nations, which gets almost all their money from Bill Gates. Okay. So they call this group a pandemic corps, CORPS, pandemic corps, like the Marine Corps, except pandemic corps. And they don't invade countries and shoot you. They give you a virus and kill you. I don't know. But anyway, they want this pandemic corps to be in charge. And they suggest that political leaders could benefit from, quote, consensus views offered by such a group rather than making the decisions themselves. Okay, now this is actually genius. So here's the problem with politicians. Politicians have to always sort of worry about what the public's going to think, right? If there's a polarizing topic and I make it, let's say it's gay marriage, right? It's like a polarizing topic. And I say, I'm banning gay marriage, as an example. Then you're going to have a huge segment of the population, the opposite side of the argument, that's really mad at you. One side will be happy, one side will be mad. Now, when you're having a pandemic, what you really need is you need everybody on board. So what they're doing in this situation is they're saying, we'll take the decision-making out of the hands of the politician so that you're not even on the hook for this. It'll be our decision. And politicians like that. Now, they don't like giving up control, but they do like dispersing blame. All right. They don't want to have any sort of accountability for this. So what Bill Gates and his crew is saying, we're going to create a pandemic core and then they'll be in charge. So if they make unpopular decisions, you, the politicians in all these different countries, can just say, it wasn't my call. It was the pandemic core. They're the ones that did this. They're the one. If you're mad, direct your anger at them. And you will be mad at some point when they start doing ridiculous things like locking you down and stopping travel. You're not going to have the anger directed at the politician in this case, because what these guys have done is they've taken that burden off of the politician. That's why I think it's genius. It's evil. And of course, nobody's going to accuse Bill Gates of being dumb. Okay. He's a maniac, of course, but they think these things out. And they've recognized that there are some problems when you get politicians, because politicians have to answer to the people on some level. You know, they're not accountable to the people, per se, but they do have to sort of tell the people what they're doing, and they are the face of the decision. But if in this case, you're able to really outsource the pandemic response to a body that you have no control over, well, then you have plausible deniability. You have the ability to just say, this isn't me. If you're mad about it, don't burn down the presidential palace. Go after these guys. So it gives them it's going to streamline the process. It's going to allow the process to happen instantaneously in all of these countries, because the pandemic core is Bill Gates' medical army. And they've said that they a network of professional public health leaders. Okay. And they talk about what this group looks like, and like who this group is. And it's not elected people, and it's not all doctors either. It's economists and social engineers and people like that are brought in, psychologists. So this is how they're going to roll it out in the future. There's not going to be a Donald Trump has signed Operation Warp Speed. You're not going to need that in the future. You're going to have a pandemic core that will make the call on that, and they will be accountable to nobody, really. They certainly won't be you're basically inviting the United Nations via the World Health Organization and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation into every single country, and then they're like a sleeper cell. That when the pandemic happens totally naturally and organically, then the sleeper cells can be activated and they're in charge. Sounds like Operation Gladio to me, but whatever. So they want to centralize the decision making. Okay, that's the reason for the pandemic core. Centralize decision making into all of these cores, and so that they can control it. It's a very simple operation, and so this puts their health experts, quote, health experts, elected agents of the globalists, right? Great. So what this scenario? You want to know. All right. So there's an outbreak in this catastrophic contagion scenario. There's an outbreak in 2 South American countries of a new virus called severe epidemic enterovirus respiratory syndrome, acronym SEERS, SEERS. Don't let Eddie Lampert in charge of it, because he ran the last Sears into the ground. Don't let him anywhere near this. Eddie Lampert, ESL Ventures, Skull and Bones, scumbag. You know what I'm talking about. 1 billion cases worldwide, 20 million people dead. And of that 20 million people that are dead, 15 million of them are children. So Bill had a huge boner for this one. Because he loves killing kids. The World Health Organization needs to be a voice for the voiceless. That's a quote that came out of this. Boy, I couldn't disagree with that statement anymore if I tried. The World Health Organization is a depopulation outfit. They have been busted putting sterilants in the tetanus vaccines in Kenya. They got caught doing that, And they denied it at first, but then they later had to admit that they had done it, and not only had done it, but they had done it for a decade, and they had done it in more than just Kenya. It had been happening in the Philippines and all over the world. That's the World Health Organization. Secretly adding up country, not telling anybody about it, lying that they didn't do it, and then finally casually admitting that they had. Now, where are we focusing on in this simulation? Oh, yeah. Senegal, Rwanda, Nigeria, Angola, Liberia, Africa. World Health Organization. Coming back again. World Health Organization 2, Electric Boogaloo. This time, there will be paralysis. This is a shitty movie. I'm not interested in watching this, but that's what these guys have planned. So, if you're in Africa and you see the people in India do and chase them off into the river, quote, countries should prioritize efforts to increase trust in government and public health, improve public health communication efforts, increase the resiliency of populations to misleading information, and reduce the spread of harmful misinformation. Now, this is where the whole scenario sort of takes you. It takes you to a place where they run across a problem. Now, the problem in this scenario, you might think is a virus that kills 15 million children, but you would be wrong. The major problem in this simulation is misinformation from the general public. Okay. Apparently, in the post-COVID world, nobody trusts these people. And they have a big problem with misinformation coming from conspiracy theorists like me. And so the real issue that they want to discuss in Catastrophic Contagion isn't how do we prevent 15 million kids from dying. The real issue is how do we make sure that there's not another voice telling people that this whole thing is a gigantic scam. They're worried about us, and they talk about it in here. So again, I'm going to reread what I just read, which is, it's really kind of insulting when you read it, but it says countries should prioritize efforts to increase trust in government and public health. Okay, I'm just going to go kind of sentence by sentence. So now you want to prioritize efforts to increase trust in government and public health after COVID? Now you want to do that? I'm sorry, it's too late. You see, you've ruined what little trust people had with government and public health. You don't get to just wave a magic wand and then that trust magically comes back. They're saying that the country should prioritize efforts to increase trust in government. I have a suggestion. Stop lying to people. Now that takes time. And this isn't going to happen overnight. But of course, they know that, because I'll get to their solution for how they're going to increase trust in government. And I assure you, it's just as stupid as you would think it would be. And we need to improve public health communication efforts. The last time we had public health communication efforts, you had a disjointed approach to that. You had some people saying you have to wear masks. You had some people say social distance. You had some people say none of this works. None of this matters. You had Fauci on record saying masks don't work. Then you had Fauci saying, well, maybe masks do work. Then you had Fauci saying you definitely have to wear a mask. Then he had Fauci saying you might want to consider wearing 2 masks. And then he's on record not wearing a mask at all. And then he's on record again saying, well, you got to get the right kind of mask because these other masks don't work. And then you buy the mask, and on the side of the box it says, this mask does not work with coronavirus. And you go, what the fuck am I doing here? So you want to talk to me about improved public health communication efforts. Again, stop lying. Wrong way. That improves the fuck out of communication. When you stop lying to people, your communication goes way up. You should try it sometime. It's amazing. You should ask your friends in the mainstream media to try it too. It does wonders for them. I mean, they've been doing it their way, which is gaslighting the public and lying their asses off to their viewers. And 91 years, 91%. That is almost impossible to. I would suggest that it is harder to lose 91% of your audience than it is to grow your audience by an additional 91%. I mean, it is almost impossible to piss off that many people. Have you seen how many stupid people watch CNN and you lost 90? Maybe try a different strategy. Maybe try not lying so that when you need public health communication efforts to be raised, then you would have a media that has a little bit of credibility. See how that works? Or government that has a little bit of credibility, or public health experts that aren't contradicting themselves left, right, and center. Try that out. See if that works. But regardless, this isn't going to be solved during the course of a pandemic. You know, they go on to say, reduce the spread of harmful misinformation. You mean like ivermectin is for cows? You mean hydroxychloroquine doesn't work? Don't take horse tranquilizer or horse paste. That's ivermectin. You mean misinformation, the spread of harmful misinformation? Like, if you take this vaccine, you won't catch COVID, Joe Biden. Every person that takes this vaccine, the virus stops with them, Rachel Maddow. You mean that dangerous misinformation? Because it's all coming from your end, not ours. So if you want to stop the spread of harmful misinformation, you could start by shutting the fuck up in the mainstream media. They go on to say that the WHO is a globally trusted source. And I assume they say that with a straight face, which should be hard to say. But yet the World Health Organization, if they're such a globally trusted source, why are they not welcome in Africa after what they did with the sterilants? That doesn't sound like a globally trusted source would have to deal with an entire continent telling you, we don't trust you and we don't want you here. So anyway, so what is the solution for this harmful misinformation and to raise the trust in government? They have a solution for you. And I told you you were going to think it was ridiculous, and it is. They call for countries to create laws banning people from, quote, misleading medical information. They want them to, quote, combat it on their own with their own rules, laws, and process. Basically, do whatever you need to do in your home country to make questioning the official narrative illegal. That's their solution. That's their solution to increasing trust in government and improving public health communication efforts. Make questioning it illegal in all these different countries. And they basically tell the countries, set that up now in advance of the next pandemic. Get the laws on the books. They say it. Combat it on their own, with their own rules, laws, and processes. Do whatever you need to do. Set up the laws now. Set up the court systems now. Put all that stuff in place now so that it is criminalized to counter any of these things. That'll solve the misinformation problem. We'll just put everyone in prison that disagrees with us. I'm not making this up. I told you that their solution was stupid. It's straight up Orwellian. How did you guys fix the problem of disinformation? Oh, it's very easy. Anyone that disagreed with us, we just murdered them. Oh, really? That's great. Did that work? We heard less about it. We found out where they lived on social media. We criminalized it, and then we sent police officers to their house. Oh, that would never happen. UK. Do you see where this is going? Do you see where they're laying the foundation for this? And the World Health Organization and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation are saying, this is a great idea. This is what we need to do. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Not change our information, not make our information actually accurate. It's put people in prison that notice it. Great solution. Definitely work. World Health Organization member states should strengthen international and allocating scarce public health resources. International problems require international solutions, right? We always get this. This is a problem. It's bigger than one country, and one country can't respond. A global problem requires a global solution. Like a one world government, just an idea, just a suggestion, just maybe. The World Health Organization says that the states should strengthen international systems for sharing public health resources. They talk about how in 2020 during COVID, The ACT Accelerator was pushed into existence on April 24th, 2020. That was fast. April 24th, 2020? What is that, like 6 weeks, 7 weeks after COVID sort of hit the population? You already had the I'll explain what that is in a second. ACT Accelerator that was pushed into existence on April 24th, 2020 by the G20. So the ACT Accelerator it's an acronym. They love acronyms. Whenever you see acronyms, you know that there's some fuckery afoot. Okay. ACT, Access to COVID-19 Tools. Access COVID Tools, ACT. Also known as, this one does not glide off the tongue. It's also known as the Global Collaboration to Accelerate the Development, Production, and Equitable Access to New COVID-19 and Vaccines. They need an acronym for that. Go fuck yourself. And it's created by the World Health Organization. So this ACT Accelerator was basically, they put together all these tools for fighting COVID. And they said, anyone that needs them, any country that needs them, you have access to them right here. And that was fast. I mean, they totally didn't know it was coming or anything to have all of this stuff rolled out in 6 or 7 weeks, created by the World Health Organization and the G20. Again, I'm sure they were completely caught off guard, which is the reason why they rushed into developing this thing. They talk about the blending of the World Health Organization, academia, the private sector, and government initiatives to create and deploy the tests, treatments, and vaccines the world needs. Now, it's a one-stop shop. And that, I think, is important, because if you can get them to all sign on to using something like this ACT Accelerator, this is like the COVID starter pack. This is all the things that you need to really help you reduce COVID in your area. And we got it all here. And what is that? Oh, well, it's the tests, the treatments, and the vaccines all rolled into one. When you centralize control over the pandemic, into the hands of one group that is in charge of testing whether or not you have it, the treatments for when you get it, and the vaccines for which they want to inject into you, you have a rigged game. There is no way that you allow the people that are selling the vaccines to be in charge of giving you the results of the test of whether or not you have the thing that needs the vaccine. Because if they're in charge, guess what? 97% positive. Everybody's got it. Everybody needs the vaccine. Isn't that weird? I mean, we're totally not rigging the results or anything. We would never do that. It's just that we're in charge of the tests, the experimental PCR tests that are rushed to market that Nobel Prize winning inventor Kary Mullis said is not a diagnostic tool. And that if you rev it up too many cycles, all you get are dead nucleotides and false positives 97% of the time. Isn't that weird? They want to be in charge of the tests and the treatment and the vaccines. Very convenient. A pandemic that they control. They also talked about how great an idea COVAX is, COVAX, and how all countries need to get on board. So what it is it's again, it's sort of a fake acronym here. It stands for COVID-19 Vaccines Global Access, COVAX, COVAX, and what they promise is, you're going to love this. And here's the quote. The first word will give it away that it's total horseshit, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Quote, equitable access to COVID-19 vaccines directed by Gavi Vaccine Alliance, the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, CEPI, CEPI, acronym, and the WHO, World Health Organization. We got a bunch of acronyms in here, alongside key delivery partner UNICEF. More acronyms. I'm telling you, acronyms are the enemy. We're gonna have to do a show on that. So basically, what they're saying is equitable access to COVID-19 vaccines. Whenever you hear equitable access, what that means is we're going to be depopulating along a variety of countries. That's what we want. Equity. Equitable. That's when the rich people go, well, we want this to be fair, so we're going to allow an equitable process where everybody can have access to this stuff. Be very suspicious when the rich people want equity for the poor people. Just be very suspicious of that, because usually you're about to walk into a trap. And of course, COVAX is all about equitable access to these COVID-19 vaccines, but it is directed by fucking Gavi. The same group that I just mentioned was thrown out of India. Was FTX unavailable? I mean, why not have them be in charge of the vaccine? They're as much grifters as Gavi is. I mean, at least they're not giving everybody polio. They are stealing from them. The World Health Organization's involved in this, of course. Yeah, again, the organization that got busted putting sterilants in tetanus vaccines is going to be involved in this. And then UNICEF. UNICEF is a United Nations Children's Foundation. David Rockefeller, United Nations. David Rockefeller, depopulation. UNICEF, Children's Foundation. We're talking about catastrophic contagion where it affects children in the African world. Children in the African world plus the World Health Organization. Ooh. They're coming for your kids in Africa. You know that, right? First, they're trying to sterilize the moms, and they had a good run, over a decade of doing that. But then they got busted. Now they're coming for the kids that made it. They want this to be a focus on low to middle income countries. And COVAX is currently in 184 countries. They're going to kill off all the poors with the vaccine. That's the plan. COVAX started distributing vaccines in February of 2021. By August of 2021, they had distributed 200 million doses to 140 countries. As of April 2022, more than 1.4 billion doses of the vaccines were delivered, with the leading countries being Indonesia, 104 million doses, Pakistan, 112 million doses, and Bangladesh, 183 million doses. Do you know what those three countries have in common? They're all on Kissinger's 1974 depopulation memo. But again, I'm sure that's just a humongous coincidence and definitely has nothing to do with depopulation and the World Health Organization and Gavi. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. But it gets worse, and it gets a little comical, and it gets a little ridiculous. But they held a donor drive, because if there's one thing better than depopulating the people of the planet, it's depopulating the people of the planet with other people's money. So they held a donor drive to raise money for this project through Gavi, USAID, United States Agency for International Development, otherwise known as Depopulation Regime Change Outfit, Anthony Blinken, heads of state, corporate leaders, and global nonprofits. They had this big event. They had a big event, a fundraising event. And in the fundraising event, they were raising money for COVAX so that they can continue this process because giving out 1.4 billion doses of COVID vaccines to the world isn't enough. They want to quadruple that, right? But they need money. And of course, Bill Gates can kick in a bunch of money, and he does. But what's better than making a bunch of rich, guilty liberals feel bad about their existence and convincing them to give money so that they can pay for the depopulation themselves? There's a name for this event. You want to take a wild guess what the name for this event was? You're not going to believe it. One World Protected. Right on schedule. So in this, they call for a buildup of manufacturing, distribution, and administration capacities around the world, especially in poor countries with fragile infrastructures. Okay, what they want is, they don't just want these people, they don't just want this team of lunatics out there to be embedded in the countries. That's not enough. They also want the manufacturing facilities to be going already. They want the distribution channels already identified, the supply chains figured out. They want the administration capacities set up. They want the manufacturing capacities set up. They want all of this stuff done in all these different countries in advance of the next pandemic. And they want you to believe that this is for your own good, because because they need you to believe that in order for this plan to work. And their suggestion to the countries to in the event that people don't believe that this is a good thing is to hurry up and pass laws that criminalize anybody speaking out against it. So more social engineering is what they're calling for. Look, what they want is to get the poor people ready for more vaccines and no questions. Not allowed to question this. That's the plan. 20 million dead, 15 million of which are children. Okay. I have a special treat for you all because you might have looked at the name of this episode and thought, oh, he's going to do a full breakdown on Catastrophic Contagion. And you got it. That's it. That's what I got for it. But this is a 2-for-1 special. I didn't put that in the title, but it's a 2-for-1 because I've got another one for you. Oh, you're in luck. And you're welcome in advance because there was another simulation that happened that you didn't hear about. I guarantee you didn't hear about this one, but it's very real and it really happened. And I'm going to explain it to you in a way that's going to make you want to scream, but also you're going to have a good laugh at this because it is so preposterous and so ridiculous and so fitting that I think you guys will appreciate it. So let's there is a group called the Nuclear Threat Initiative, NTI, again with the fucking acronyms, right? Partnered with the Munich Security Conference over the last 3 years. So a group called Nuclear Threat Initiative, definitely not a scary name or anything, has partnered with the Munich Security Conference, and they've partnered with them for 3 years in a row. They've been running simulations in Munich 3 different years in a row. Okay. It's an annual tabletop exercise. And what they focus on is reducing high consequence biological threats. This is basically, they're like the European Johns Hopkins Health Center. Just running these simulations, totally not prepping the public for what's going to be coming or what they're going to try to pass off or some new agenda or whatever. They're definitely wink, not doing that at all. And you will know this is true when I tell you what they're doing. Okay. So in March of 2021, so we're coming up on, it's almost 2 years ago. Let's just say it's a little less than 2 years, but almost 2 years. They ran an exercise called Reducing High Consequence Biological Threats. Okay. It included 19 senior leaders and experts in public health, the biotechnology industry, the international security industry, and philanthropy. The event simulates a global pandemic involving an unusual strain of, wait for it, monkeypox that emerges in the fictional country of Brinia, spreading around the world, causing 3 billion cases and killing 270 million people. You're welcome. You're welcome. You knew they had to have run this, right? Now go back and just think about a couple of months ago when they started trying to sell that monkeypox story. Remember that? And everyone went, get the fuck out of here with that monkeypox. And then they're like, well, it's definitely dangerous. And everyone's like, but is it really called monkeypox? And they're like, well, yeah, it's super dangerous, but it's not racist. We're definitely not talking about black people. It's like, no, nobody said anything about it being racist or you talking about black people except you guys. Now you guys all of a sudden think it's racist. Maybe your racism is showing. So now we have to change. Well, we don't mean to offend anybody with the monkey comment. And everyone's like, nobody was actually offended because you weren't directing it at Africans or anything like that. You just called it monkeypox and then you made the assumption that everyone was referring to black people, which is super fucking racist. Okay? Then you changed the name to Mpox, which definitely doesn't scare anybody, right? So who was at this totally legit event that definitely was not trying to prep the public to accept monkeypox as a dangerous virus? Okay, well, I'll tell you who the participants are. Sir Jeremy Farrar of Wellcome Trust. Man, Johnny Vedmore fucking hates this guy, and with good reason, too. You should see Johnny does outstanding work on Wellcome Trust and all these things. You should check him out. He doesn't like this guy. And not for nothing either. Dr. Chris Elias from the Gates Foundation. Oh, great. Dr. George Guo from the Chinese CDC. Hey, weren't you at Event 201? Yeah, you were. You were at Event 201 too. Now you're at this monkeypox horse shit. Beth Cameron, U.S. National Security Council. Dr. Michael Ryan from the World Health Organization. Dr. Petra Wickenlant from Merck Pharmaceuticals. Dr. Ruxandra Dragia from Johnson & Johnson and Janssen. Izumi Nakamitsu from the United Nations. So all of the scumbags are there. Wellcome Trust, which is eugenics. Gates Foundation, which is eugenics. Chinese CDC, which is, I just assume everything China health related is sort of semi-eugenics. I mean, they are the ones that did like the one-child policy. So let's not pretend like they're not deeply involved in eugenics. U.S. National Security Council, they're whatever. World Health Organization, depopulation. Merck, big pharma. Johnson & Johnson, big pharma. United Nations, depopulation. So look, they're running a scam. They're trying to make monkeypox into a huge big deal that gets 3 billion cases. 3 out of every 8 people on the planet will catch monkeypox. Do I have to go to a gay bathhouse? I didn't see that in the simulation. I looked. Oh my God, it starts in San Francisco and it spreads to Miami and then it spreads to Ibiza and then it spreads to Palm Springs and it just fizzles out. Okay, but again, so you have to look at the recommendations and to understand what the plan is, right? So it's back to the problem, reaction, solution. This is just the new scenario, right? So you go to the recommendations and you go, oh, I get it. I see what they're doing here. So here, what are the 5 recommendations for the monkeypox scenario? Well, you're strap in. You're going to love this. The first one is, bolster international systems for assessing pandemic risk, issue warnings, and investigating outbreak origins, meaning probably from another lab. Nothing really big with recommendation number 1. Number 2, develop and institute national level triggers for early proactive pandemic response. They say national governments must adopt a, quote, no regrets approach to pandemic responses, taking anticipatory actions. Here comes the iron fist, China style, no regrets approach. They want the governments to take a no regrets approach, which is we did what we had to do in the face of this monkeypox outbreak. So totalitarian response to it. Great. Fantastic. Can't wait. Recommendation number 3, establish an international entity, of course, dedicated to reducing emerging biological risks associated with rapid technology advances. They call for the United Nations to partner up with experts from scientific, philanthropic, security, public health communities to make this new group dedicated to making sure we don't have a bioscience or biotechnology, quote, event, which they obviously would control themselves. So again, they're calling to create an international response to this, right? International problems require international responses from this world government. They immediately call for the United Nations to get involved. Again, work backwards. They want a world government body that is in charge of pandemic response. They want a supranatural national organization, one that is outside of national constraints, international in scope, that answers to nobody, that is above all governments. And it is a pandemic response group. Oh, we'll just have somebody figure it out and put it together like, oh, I don't know, our recommendations are the United Nations. It's David Rockefeller steps forward. The ghost of David Rockefeller says, we'll take it from here. Exactly what we wanted, right? Number 4 recommendation, develop a catalytic global health security fund to accelerate pandemic preparedness capacity building in countries around the world. They want to spend $10 billion a year, every year for 10 years on this, what I assume is a money laundering operation. I'm sure it'll be built into the project somehow. But they want to spend $10 billion a year for 10 years globally for pandemic preparedness in different countries, which I think if you go and take a look at the Catastrophic Contagion and you look at their pandemic core of people, which is a network of national health experts and responders, it's basically the same thing. And they want money for it. $10 billion a year. Is that good? Is that good enough? Get you started. Number 5, the last recommendation for monkeypox. You should definitely be scared of mpox. I don't want to offend anybody by calling it monkey. I don't want to offend the monkeys. Establish a robust international process to tackle the challenge of supply chain resilience. Means they want access to all of these places for supply chain reasons that they can take over in the event of the next pandemic. This is pre-positioning of assets. Again, this goes back to the next time there's a pandemic, they don't want to have to start the whole thing over and say, well, let's find a Fauci and a Birx and hey, maybe you guys do this. And they say, we've gone through COVID. We've dealt with that. The next time around, we're going to be boom, 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 boom. We're already going to have this stuff in place. We're going to, we learned our lessons from COVID. We moved too slow. Next time we need to move quickly. In fact, we need to have a quote, no regrets approach to how quickly we move, which may include lockdowns, which may include forced vaccinations, which may include travel bans and all of the things. So they talk about wanting to, make sure that places are supply chain resistant so that they can get quick access to the supplies they need. What supplies would those be? Vaccines, you mean? You don't want to make these people wait even in one single day longer than they have to get injected with your poisons. Your experimental rush to market gene therapy. So they want the supply chains to be sort of figured out and hardened in advance of this. And it's definitely not on the calendar someplace at the United Nations headquarters for when this next, pandemic is going to hit. So we'll wrap up with this, and I think you'll appreciate the insanity and the coincidental nature of this, although there are no coincidences when it comes to all these things. But I think it's important to dig into, since we're on this monkeypox simulation. We know that the other one was Johns Hopkins, World Health Organization, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And we know that when it comes to having the money to spend on all this stuff, Bill Gates has more than enough, and it's his favorite thing to do to spend it on things like this. But the monkeypox simulation, that was paid for by somebody else, not Bill Gates. This project was funded by open philanthropy, not open societies, to be clear, not Soros. That's a different thing, but open philanthropy, which is owned by a guy named Dustin Moskovitz. He is one of the co-founders of Facebook. He was the youngest self-made billionaire in the world when Facebook went public, and he went through, his net worth went through the roof. He donated $24 million to the Joe Biden campaign, plus his other company started after Facebook called Asana, gave another $45 million to the Biden campaign. So he's a hardcore lefty. He's deeply involved with that team and all the things that they're into. But on a personal note, he's also deeply involved with CRISPR technology. And you know what CRISPR technology does, right? Gene editing the human genome. What did I say? Whenever you hear people talking about wanting to edit the human genome, you've got a problem. You're getting into the eugenics space. And who's involved in financing stuff like that? Sam Bankman-Fried's brother, Gabe. His PAC was giving a lot of money to editing the human genome, things like that. You know who else was involved? Jeffrey Epstein. But I'm sure that's all just a giant coincidence. But I'll tell you what isn't a giant coincidence. You want to take a guess at what else open philanthropy funded as a event, as a simulation to try and just figure out where things are going to go? Don't worry, everybody. This is the same group that funded Event 201. If you like this episode, take the additional step right now of sharing it with your friends and family. You can follow me on Twitter @macroaggression. The website, theoctopusofglobalcontrol.com. Thanks, everybody. I'll talk to you soon.